Okay, so today's video, this is going to be an exciting one. Maybe not so exciting. But today we're going to talk about some defined legal definitions or some defined legal terms because I've become aware that there are certain things that when I talk about, even though I try to keep them on a very basic level, there's still a lot of people that don't understand these concepts. So, and often these are people who are trying to argue with me about legal definitions. And if you're starting in the wrong place, I can't possibly continue that discussion or debate because you're starting at a place that's so wrong. I can't possibly talk to you about it. So I'm probably just going to make fun of you because I can't. I'm not gonna. It's not my job to sit there and educate everybody in the comments. I don't have time for that. But regardless of my tangent, the topic for today is going to be the culpable mental state. I don't know. Let's get into it. Okay, so the reason I'm talking about this topic today is because the other day on my community tab, I put up a poll. Is that big enough for you guys? I can do this. Um, I put up a poll asking about the Ohio Revised Code definition of disorderly conduct, and it reads: the Ohio Revised Code defines disorderly conduct as an action that will recklessly cause inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm to another person. And I saw a couple comments on that kind of surprised me. And the reason for it is because at least one person said, well, it depends on if the officers can prove that the people did it recklessly. And that was like a little moment for me because that just shows that people don't understand what the culpable mental state is. And maybe this would be a good opportunity for me to go ahead and discuss that with you because recklessly is actually a very low bar as far as the standard goes. And it's not something that's difficult to prove. So by making that comment, you're just showing that you don't know how our legal system works, and you're out there on the internet telling, like, trying to sound smart and telling people what to do, and you're fundamentally flawed. So I want to go over this now, and we'll make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about here. So the culpable mental state, it's hard for me to define what it means, but it's kind of like the bar that we need to reach in order to convict somebody of a crime. And it shows almost like what their intent behind the crime was. Um, you can do things intentionally, you can do them on purpose, you can do them and the outcome is foreseeable, or you can do them without any regard for the outcome and it still happens. And then you can also just set something in motion that causes a crime. Those are kind of the bars that we go, and it goes from most difficult to prove to least. And I'll read some of the definitions now, and then we'll kind of get into some examples that are actually defined in law. So the first one is purposefully, and this is the highest level that you have to prove that somebody did something purposefully in order to convict them of that crime. There's very few crimes that have that wording in them because it's so hard to prove. So a person acts purposefully when the specific intention to cause a certain result. So an example, well, I'll get into the examples here in a minute, but that's purposefully. That's the most difficult to prove. The next one is knowingly. It's a little bit easier to prove knowingly than it is purposefully. A person acts knowingly regardless of his purpose when he is aware that his conduct will probably cause a certain result or will probably be of a certain nature. That's knowingly. So the next one is going to be recklessly. This is the third one down. We're getting a little bit easier to prove whether or not somebody committed a crime when we start saying recklessly. So a person acts recklessly when, with heedless indifference to the consequences, he perversely disregards a known risk that his conduct will likely cause a certain result. That's recklessly. And then you get down into negligently, and negligently is the easiest to prove. A person acts negligently when, because of a substantial lapse from due care, he fails to perceive or avoid a risk that his outcome may cause a certain result. So that's what we call accidentally, almost. So what I've done is I brought up some examples. We're going to go through, I forgot the way I shared this. We're going to go through some examples now, and I'm going to show you in the actual criminal code what these look like to give you an idea. So here is aggravated murder, and it's right here. If you read it, no person shall purposefully and with prior calculation and design cause the death of another or unlawful termination of another's pregnancy. So purposefully would mean you your intention is to kill a person. You point a gun at a person's head, you pull the trigger multiple times. That's because you have purpose to kill that person. That is the highest level that you have to prove. It's one of those things. Here, let me pull up another one here. And unfortunately, you can't see what I'm searching. I'm gonna skip a little bit to knowingly because I want to juxtapose that with purposefully, because a lot of people say, well, of course, if you shoot somebody, you're purposefully trying to kill them. It's not necessarily the case, and it's not always something that you can prove. You can shoot somebody without trying to kill them and not kill them. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why we have different degrees of the law. And here is felonious assault. No person shall knowingly do either of the following: cause a serious physical harm to another or another's unborn, cause or attempt to cause physical harm to another or another's unborn by means of a deadly weapon or dangerous ordinance. That's where you get into, like, if you're shooting at somebody, it's really hard to prove that they were purposefully trying to kill that person, but you can knowingly cause or attempt to cause serious physical harm to another person by using a firearm. That's why a lot of times people aren't charged with like attempted murder when they shoot at somebody, because that's a very high bar that you're trying to prove. You have to prove that they're purposefully trying to kill somebody. But felonious assault means you're pointing a gun at someone and you shoot at them. That means that you have full knowledge that your actions are creating a situation where somebody is most likely going to be seriously harmed. So that's one difference between knowingly and purposefully. Now I have another one. The domestic violence code is a very good example. Let's go here. So here's the domestic violence code, and there's multiple sections, and I want you to pay attention to the wording, and we'll kind of discuss it. So no person shall knowingly cause or attempt to cause physical harm to a family or household member. So it's right here. This is the knowingly. And then it goes down to the B section. No person shall recklessly cause serious physical recklessly cause serious physical harm to another family or household member. So these are situations where if you knowingly cause or attempt to cause harm to a family or household member, that means you're punching them, throwing something at them, swinging them, throwing them against a wall. That is a situation where you can knowingly cause physical harm to another, because if you're swinging a punch at somebody, you have to know that this action might cause physical harm to another person. That's knowingly. Recklessly is the next one below, because you can have somebody that's seriously physically harmed, but you didn't knowingly make that happen. An example would be if you were having an argument and you push somebody and they fall down the stairs and break their neck. You you might push somebody and you're not trying to cause physical harm to that person. But if you push somebody and they stumble and they fall down the stairs and break their neck, that means that you didn't know your actions were going to hurt them, but they still got seriously hurt in the process. That's because you were reckless in your action. Um, Again, this is something like when I say recklessly or knowingly, these are varying degrees of difficulty of prosecution. So when the person said the officers were going to have to prove that the auditors acted recklessly, they're showing that they don't understand what they're talking about, because reckless is an extremely low bar. And then I pulled up negligent. See an example of a crime of negligence. We're going to use negligent assault. So no person shall negligently, by means of a deadly weapon or dangerous ordinance as defined by the ORC, cause physical harm to another person or another person's unborn. An example of negligence, of a negligent assault, could be that you like you left a firearm out and a child grabbed it. That would be a crime of negligence, because you didn't purposefully hurt somebody. You didn't knowingly hurt somebody. It's not quite reckless, because reckless, I guess, would be you put the gun in the child's hand. Negligence is you left a loaded firearm out with a round in the chamber and the safety off. That would be negligence, because then a child gets that firearm and something happens. The other thing to remember is that the penalties for these all go down as well. So if you commit an act that's purposeful in nature, you're likely to face higher penalties than you are if you're convicted of an act and you're found negligent of the same thing. I believe there's even like a homicide or a murder statute under negligence. So if you have aggravated murder, which is way up here because it's a purposeful act, down where you have negligence, that's where you might see people that get just a year or two, or might even get probation, depending on the totality of the circumstances, So when we talk about reckless, and you have to remember, these are culpable mental states. It's not the actions. It's not like when you're driving and you have to prove that somebody was recklessly driving when they cause an accident. It's the mental state. It means that reckless basically means that you committed this crime even if you didn't intend to, but you did. You caused an environment where the crime occurred. So from now on, hopefully, you guys will understand the difference when we say knowingly, recklessly, purposefully, or negligently. And that'll help frame your arguments going forward. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you were aware of the whole culpable mental state when it comes to crime. And if you have any follow-up questions, I'll try to answer them either in another video or in a live stream sometime in the future. So I will talk to you guys soon.